Breakers, wallet loaded, ready. Diving in deep, keep the mindset steady. Builders stacking code like Tetris blocks. Innovators pushing boundaries, no padlocks. Mining for diamonds, secrets in the hash. They'll find these gems, make that portfolio splash. Talking with the legends, future so bright. Crypto dreams at dawn, shine into the night. Smart contracts, decentralized plans. Talking to the master, shaking high-tech hands. Riding on the chain revolution in.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Late Night on Base. I'm your host, Bill the Bull. Today, we're back at it. Oh, this one is going to be a doozy. I hope you guys stay all the way tuned till the end because we have none other than Hoolie from Coinbase Ventures on the podcast. Two things. Number one, it seems like you did like the intro, hopefully.
I was feeling it.
You were, right?
Shoulders were moving.
You know, you got a little hip hop, you know, a little, just doing it a little different, but I'm glad you like it. But no, Hoolie, pleasure to have you on. I have one very important, I mean, we have many important questions today, but I have the most important question, and that is, my friend, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Bill. Thank you. Thanks for asking. Yeah, that intro music got me in a good vibe. Yeah.
It's all about vibes, bro. It's all about vibes. You got to set the tone up because, you know, you want the rest of the show to feel good. But happy to have you on. Honestly, in all seriousness, it's a pleasure to have you on. Someone of your stature, it's I don't take it lightly. So it's really good. And I know for a fact my audience and those listening who are new to me will really find this episode insightful. One of the things in crypto as well, you know, Coinbase Venture is like this gold standard for a lot of people. Especially project founders. And, you know, there's this whole idea of like, oh, and this is just my own thoughts. Some people are like, oh, meme coins, like we don't need VCs, blah, blah, blah. But the way I look at it is VCs are integral in the part of helping, you know, builders with their vision. Without the VCs, they can't do what they want to do. And that is to make the on-chain experience as best as possible. But without further ado, Hoolie, let's dive in a little bit. I want to kind of get to know, obviously, we're going to get to know you as a person later on because that's important. But I want to start with Coinbase Ventures. So for those that are listening on Spotify, Pods Media, Onchain, YouTube, wherever they are, Apple Podcasts, and they're coming across, you know, you for the first time and Coinbase Ventures. If you don't mind, talk to us. What is Coinbase Ventures?
Sure. Thank you for the kind words. So brief overview in Coinbase Ventures. Where we are today is we're one of the most active investors in the crypto ecosystem. We're part of Coinbase. We invest off the Coinbase balance sheet. We operate very much today like a typical seed or Series A fund. But if you wind back to how we started, it started really as like a blog post and an idea from Brian and Emily with a very simple premise of let's back great founders who are building and pushing the state of the crypto economy forward. That's always been the principle of what we're after. Over the past few years, we've become increasingly active, more sophisticated in how we deploy capital. But that is the kind of overarching premise of why we're here and what we're doing.
I think what you're doing is very vital, and like I said, it's something that is critically important for this space. We need, you know, people to deploy funds in the believers of this world because there's so many people with great ideas, but unfortunately they don't have access to capital markets. So I think you guys feel a deep need. Talk to us kind of more about, and I know this has been starting to talk about a lot, the Base Ecosystem Fund. So this is something that has been, you know, in my timeline, you know, I'm pretty well entrenched in the ecosystem on Base, but even myself, I'm genuinely curious to know more. So if you don't mind, Hoolie, talk to us. What is the Base Ecosystem Fund?
Sure. So like all things at Coinbase, Base Ecosystem Fund started as a bit of an experiment. So as Base was getting off the ground, we realized we wanted to have a vehicle to support and invest in builders who are building on Base. So we started Base Ecosystem Fund right around the time of Base testnet. As Coinbase Ventures, we have multiple investment strategies, and we have a dedicated strategy around investing around the Base ecosystem. So it's part of our broader mandate where we're focused on early stage checks going into teams that are building on Base. Up to date, we've invested in over 40 teams. We're very actively thinking about how we can further scale both the number of investments we can do and other vehicles and ways that we can support builders on Base, providing investment capital, but other ways of support. You may have seen recently we've We've stood up a base ecosystem group in partnership with Echo on the Echo platform. That's one of those initiatives we have in flight to get more access to capital for builders, more community participation from folks who want to invest and support projects that are building on base. But yeah, that's kind of the high level on base ecosystem fund. It's a big part of our focus, like a dedicated strategy, set of capital and effort going into investing in base teams.
So those that are building on base technically have the potential of secure. Obviously, not everyone, but if you're building on base, you guys as Coinbase Ventures are looking to invest in base projects, correct? And you've done about 40 of them, you said.
About 40 so far, and there'll definitely be more coming. And stepping back, Coinbase Ventures broadly, we've done over 500 investments since we've started.
Sure.
We
But the
keep it
base
broader,
ecosystem.
but the base ecosystem fund is like a dedicated sleeve within that.
So the base ecosystem fund, because obviously as a base show, I talk to a lot of founders, all sorts of people, and they're always genuinely curious about what it takes to get investment from maybe you or from the base ecosystem fund or anything. So can you tell us maybe some criteria that the base ecosystem fund takes into account before deploying any capital? Is it the pedigree of the team? Is it the idea? Is it a combination of both? What do you guys look for when deploying capital?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's not too dissimilar to how we evaluate kind of any early stage investment opportunity. So, team and the folks around the project are usually first and foremost. We're looking at kind of, do we like the team? Do we like the idea? But more than that, are there the right motivations in place? Like, are folks like trying to build something like long term? Is it more of a short term project? We're happy to invest in things that are experimental, quote unquote. But our folks trying to build something enduring that will persist over time. So we look at team, we look at idea. We love when there's some proof of shipping, there's some type of MVP product or some code or something out already that we can get our hands on. But we will invest on just founders and concepts as well. And we're very broad on the types of ideas and projects that we'll get into, but it's very much the same kind of heuristics or how we would think about kind of any like pre-seed seed stage investment.
Got it. Got it. So for those listening in, I think it's important to understand that, if you do have some sort of more than just an idea that does help, like an MVP or something, so something a little bit more tangible. So if you're still build something that you can easily showcase to other VCs in the base ecosystem fund. Let's pivot real quick. Now let's talk about Echo, because that's another thing that's actually been, it's Kobe's platform. I think it's Kobe's platform, but it's made waves. I think you're one of the base ecosystem fund is one of the what do they call it? The one of the
Groups.
groups. Yeah, one of the
Yep.
groups on there. Talk to us about Echo. Why is base ecosystem involved with Echo, and what makes Echo so special in your eyes?
Sure. So stepping back, the broader mission at Coinbase is increasing economic freedom in the world. And part of that is innovating and increasing access to capital. And how do we think about capital formation? So if you think about like the traditional VC model, it's a pretty constrained, not, I wouldn't call it like an open access type model. So with Echo, what we're trying to do is create more access both for community members who want to invest and have access to the various investments and deals that we're participating in and leading, and also create more access to capital for projects and builders. So last week we syndicated our first investment in our Echo group. There's going to be more coming, and we overall, we're very aligned with kind of the ethos of what Echo is trying to accomplish in terms of increasing more access around capital formation.
Yeah, so if you guys are on Spotify, head over to YouTube real quick. We are going to be showcasing, we're on live, we're showing the Echo website just for some visuals. Basically what Echo does, it's early stage investing in startups and tokens, and Coinbase Ventures and the base ecosystem fund has a group there, and you're saying you started one deal, right? You syndicated one deal so far?
Last week we syndicated our first deal, and we have a pipeline that we'll be syndicating out. And these are investments that we're making, and then securing additional allocation for the Echo Group, accredited investor group, to participate in it as well.
Interesting. And yeah, I think that's really a really interesting concept of what Echo is doing, because you're now tapping into capital all around the world,
That's
right?
right.
You're able to now instead of a closed off systems, because like I've been a part of projects too where I've raised money in the past for a different project, and it's hard to get the word out there, but crypto allows the opportunity to have investors from all around the world. But it's kind of closed off in the traditional way. But if you have like an open type platform like this where everyone knows what's going on, now if I'm in Germany, Japan, and I see you're bringing something to the table as a fund, I can invest with you. And as a founder, as a project founder, that's amazing too, because you're now accessing capital markets all around the world. So I think this is 100% the direction of why blockchain is so important. So I think that's very interesting. So all right, so we have Echo, we have this now. Got to know your thesis, because crypto, there's, especially now in the 2021 cycle, it wasn't as saturated as it is now, right? There's just all sorts of projects, memes, everything, with the pump funds and stuff. So you have to be more selective in the sectors that you decide to allocate resources to. So whether it's the base ecosystem fund or Coinbase Ventures, what are certain areas that interest you guys the most?
So one, I think we start off with the humility, knowing that we can form very deep theses, but ultimately it's the really brilliant builders and founders that we're talking to every day that are guiding us to what's interesting and relevant. Two, I should say, like the way we operate for Coinbase Ventures, base ecosystem fund, we're not short-term investors, we're not traders, we're fundamentally long and on everything we do, thinking in multi-year time horizons. So we're less likely to kind of chase the latest like crypto Twitter narrative or meme, because
Sure.
we're not chasing like token prices. Where we're spending a lot of time right now, and again, it's guided by where builders are spending their time. One, all things stablecoin and stablecoin infrastructure related, given where things are progressing with legislation in the US. I think it's there's just a lot of great founders and builders coming into that space. We've always been very active in DeFi, and we continue to be. We think there's a whole ton of potential and opportunity still there. We're investing pretty actively in the intersection of crypto and AI. Folks
Yeah.
probably have seen the different agent trading bots or platforms for agent-based token launches. We're meeting those teams, investing there, and then broadly all things on-chain consumer apps. So everything from gaming to NFTs to loyalty to prediction markets and like everything in between. I think what base and the overall set of like underlying infrastructure, what's really remarkable now is that we're at a place compared to the past previous cycles where you can actually build really great internet scale on-chain apps. And so we're very active there, trying to make investments.
Yeah, I think the on-chain apps, especially, which is now the emphasis with base with Farcaster, and all that building, I can see the appeal. And it was interesting to know two things: AI, and you're talking about on-chain NFTs and gaming. So I come from like an NFT world as well. I'm a recent founder as well of an NFT project. I'm curious to know, like, gaming and NFTs, obviously 2021 had its moment. 2025, it's different, but you're saying maybe you guys are still interested in like the app element. Can you elaborate into like gaming and NFTs, like what you're looking for?
Sure. So we haven't to date like invested in like NFT projects or collections directly. It's not something that's we're opposed to doing on principle, but just hasn't kind of fit our model so far. We're open-minded around it. We're excited about NFT like utility. So exactly to your point, like the intersection of, can NFTs become the core primitives of these like in-game economies that move across
Mm.
different games and applications, different platforms. And yeah, NFTs are also used in loyalty and like different like consumer use cases. So it's less about the NFT as the technology and more about what are the use cases you can enable with it. And if you can enable it with a fungible model too, great. But gaming seems to be, it's a very hard category to invest in because like gaming is so hits driven and it's very like non-deterministic what's going to hit or not hit. But we've made a whole bunch of investments in that category and we'll continue to do so.
Nice. And isn't it funny, like AI, especially, like, I don't know about you. Well, you're in the trenches, and so you understand that. But I don't really think like my mom knows what's going on in the AI world. My father, your parents, your aunts and uncles. Like AI is crazy. It really is. Would you agree?
It's 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 both exciting and scary with
Right?
what's possible. And
Oh my gosh.
how fast things are changing. But it's an awesome set of tools for creativity. Like I would not have put in my bingo card, someone creating a AI agent that's like able to shill its own meme coin or what have you. And
I
and all
mean,
the things that start looking like toys and like irreverent, there's usually something like deeper and bigger happening there. And I think that's probably the case with kind of the on-chain AI stuff right now.
yeah, and it makes sense from a venture capital point of view to invest in these, groundbreaking technologies. It's actually funny. I had a podcast interview I did with an actual AI agent. Like it was not a human, and it was just like completely transparent, talking, responding to my questions. I'm just like, I'm gonna lose a job soon. So it's like, I better enjoy this while I can. I better get guys like Hoolie on before I get kicked out by the AI agent. Hoolie, before I get more in depth into you because it's important, talk to us about the consumer on-chain apps that actually you have been very proud of, maybe you've invested, or what do you see right now currently in the market on-chain consumer apps that really just catch your attention?
So I think no surprise last year with the election prediction markets with
Mm,
Polymarket really kind of caught mainstream. There's a handful of crypto apps outside of trading that have, or most of them have been trading related, that have really gotten to that like mainstream. Your mom is talking about or like recognizes it, or the president's tweeting about it. So very interested, and I don't think the design space is like done yet around prediction markets. Like how can we take the things that crypto enable around creating a market for anything and use that to express like some form of utility. So prediction markets are one, and related type of markets are one vector. We're still excited about on-chain social. Like we spent a lot of time in the Farcaster ecosystem and other social ecosystems. I think what is interesting there is you've got really a new petri dish for developers in terms of all the different components that you can build with and compose with, and building mini apps, and users come with
mhm,
their own wallets. And if you attach that to a social graph, there are very few consumer applications that have gotten to like massive scale without some type of social graph or like viral loop like that. Yeah, loyalty. So like projects like Blackbird are doing really interesting
yeah.
stuff on base around loyalty. So yeah, we could unpack. There's probably like a dozen different subcategories within on-chain consumer that we're finding interesting.
Nice. Yeah, it's a new frontier. Blackbird with loyalty, Farcaster. For a while, I just didn't understand Farcaster to be completely honest, but it recently has clicked, my friend. It has recently clicked. Dan
What made it
Romero
click?
and team is finally doing something that I actually agree with. It's hard though.
What made it click for you?
It's the apps, the mini apps, because I can now, like for instance, I had a friend and we were minting this NFT project that I created recently, and he created a mini app. I don't have to leave the screen, and I can click and buy this NFT that I want. And it's all done in this app and on the purple app, as we call it. And it just makes the user experience so cool. I've started getting into blogging, for instance, on Paragraph. So I write a paragraph post, and instead in the traditional methods like on X, you post, then you have to link out, you lose retention, you lose viewerships. People, that like 10-second span, people lose interest. But on the purple app, Farcaster, it's all there. The mini frame, I can post and I can just read it directly without ever leaving. It just makes the user experience so much better. Obviously, Farcaster is growing and there's a lot of things to learn. Like I've talked to Ted, but they're willing to learn, and they understand it's not going to happen overnight, and there's still a lot of things that they can do better. But the team is very, uh, you know, A+ in my opinion. So everything so far, I like it. Dan Romero, if you ever want to get on the podcast, holler at your boy Bill. Just throwing
Nice.
that out there.
Nice.
Got to plug myself, bro.
We'll give him a tap.
Yes, yes. All right. So, oh yeah, and one last thing too, because this term has kind of been going around X, the Coinbase Mafia. What exactly does that mean?
Great question. I don't know if I love the mafia terminology. I think it's more been assigned to us because of the like pattern matching to the PayPal mafia. But simply put, and kind of what brought me to Coinbase in the beginning, it really is like an incredible talent hub and talent factory for folks who believe in crypto and want to build in crypto. And credit to kind of the culture that Brian and Emily have like seeded deeply in the DNA. It's a very entrepreneurial, like startup minded culture. So we've had over 100 Coinbase alums found startups, and we've invested in close to half of them, which is kind of a proof point on folks who come to Coinbase, believe in crypto, have that kind of action for bias, and there's a subset of them who have a entrepreneurial bent. And so we're happy to see that Coinbase is this platform that's part of like a hopefully part of a broader rising tide in terms of like innovation and startup formation that's coming out of the folks that when the time is right they decide to start their own thing.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's kind of like having a Harvard degree, but on Coinbase, because I'm sure the hiring standards from Coinbase are, top notch. I'm sure not everyone.
Very high bar, and I don't think I would get through the door at the current the current standards that we have in place.
Well, good thing you're already in. Yeah, no, that makes sense though. But you just like in any, if you're in the traditional VC world, people go to the Ivy League schools to hire there because the talent's the best in the on-chain blockchain space. Coinbase is that top standard. All right, so Hoolie, now we're going to turn to the part where this is kind of what separates my podcast from other podcasts, in my opinion. To me, you can talk about the product, you can talk about what investments are great, but what's important in anything is the people behind it, the person. I like to dive into people's whys because if the person is not passionate, why should anyone even care? Why should anyone want to watch this episode? Why should anyone want to invest in anything that they're doing? So I want to kind of get to know you in a little deeper way. So Huli, talk to me. How did you land up into the world of that we call the crazy on-chain world that is blockchain and crypto? What led you to
Yeah.
this space?
So I'll hit it from a couple of prompts. So I spent a decent period of my career actually doing international development and spent a bunch of time in frontier markets where it's very obvious that the financial system that we take for granted in the US or in developed markets is just not serving billions of people. So that's like observation, underlying motivation number one. Two was when I was at grad school at MIT, the program there did an airdrop of Bitcoin to all students. And that was like the first, oh, what is this weird cryptocurrency digital thing that everyone's talking about, and just like planted kind of the seed in my mind. But it actually wasn't until around the Ethereum ICO period where I did the work to go like really understand the white paper, really understand what Ethereum is, what it's trying to accomplish. Like I started playing around in Solidity, and my light bulb went on of like, wow, like this is a truly transformational technology. It's a fundamental change in like how human beings coordinate, like how economic systems can be designed and built. And like any technology, there's good things that can come out of it, there's bad things that come out of it. For me, I'm passionate about creating more open economic freedom in the world. Create like I bias to more open, permissionless versions of the internet than what we've built so far. And so those are kind of like the core like underlying ethos for me around what's gotten me in the space, what keeps me motivated. And then candidly, like I know I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but being in this space, I get to talk to very, very smart people, very, very
Mhm.
smart developers, really brilliant folks, and the level of like creative energy that is around the space, around the ecosystem, is what kind of like keeps me fulfilled.
So 2015, Ethereum ICO, you really started to dive deep into the space after your airdrop experience at MIT. Now, then, what led you from that point to get into the world of venture capital and especially Coinbase Ventures?
So venture capital, I was always kind of oriented towards the future and I'm always really interested in technology and what the future of technology was going to bring to the world. So I was at an early stage VC fund, and just by coincidence, this is around the ICO mania, just became like the crypto guy at the fund because I just knew the most about it and did the work to kind of like educate the rest of the partners. But that from spending that time, I also developed a lot of conviction around Coinbase. And another investor actually asked me a question of, "Hey, if you could bet your whole career on one company, what would it be?" And I answered without hesitation, Coinbase, and that said something to me, right? In
Yeah.
investing, it's all about picking your spots where you have conviction. And I had extreme conviction on Coinbase. So there were a bunch of folks in my network who happened to be at Coinbase that I had some coffee chats with, and it just one thing led to another. I wasn't. It kind of was like an accident of history, and joined after the Series E, well before the IPO, and have kind of had wonderful, wild, crazy, but like super fulfilling experience ever since.
That's amazing. So you've seen the 2017 cycle, you've seen the 2021 cycle, and 2021 for those that are new to the space was just crazy. And actually, 2017 was too. I have plenty of stories on that one. I was just like, oh, that was my first foray into crypto, really, just like getting into like these Asian coins and like supply chains, and it was just wild. But now you've also experienced the current run right now. So, Huli, let me ask you this: why aren't you at a beach right now, sipping some tequila, listening to some music, retired somewhere? Because I'm sure you're doing pretty well, but you do this not for the money. I'm sure I can tell you're just passionate. Why, Huli? Why?
I mean, you nailed it. It's comes back to like intrinsic motivations, and I'm super fired up and fulfilled by getting to work with and back and invest incredible builders who are building new things and like shaping the future. And look, like the work's not done. We're only at like 1% of the potential of what this entire crypto economy can do. I think I believe in a world where we're going to be talking about massive amounts of GDP that are flowing on blockchains. So yeah, hanging up the spurs and going on the beach. It feels a little early. There's a lot more work to do, a lot more to
Work
accomplish,
works.
a lot more impact to land.
The work's not done. There's a funny meme out there. The work's, I think it was like Vince Carter. Anyways, but the life of an entrepreneur. If you're in this space, most people are entrepreneurs. You're taking the path less traveled. You're a builder, a community member. If you show up day in and day out, you're an entrepreneur for the most part. And so let me ask you this, because coming from a successful entrepreneur, I'm sure you can have great insight to my listeners. It's not all roses. I'm sure nothing in line is a straight path, whether it's your career, a builder, nothing goes up. There's always pivots, there's always roadblocks. Talk to us, Willie. What has been some obstacle or some roadblock that has come in your way as you've progressed your way to an elite VC? And how did you overcome it?
I'll preface it by saying I don't think as much as I could like talk up like adversity or challenges or like, having true grit for myself, I don't think it even comes close to the amount of grit, tenacity, and adversity that founders I know worked with, invest in, folks who were like help build the early days of Coinbase, like what they've gone through. For me personally, like it's a very volatile industry. The entire period around FTX, Celsius, et cetera, that whole period definitely didn't feel great. I was able to stay pretty zen and cool about it because I was at a platform that I knew I fundamentally believed in how we were building things and how things were going long term. But it's it doesn't feel great at Thanksgiving when like
Yeah.
you have to answer these questions and everyone thinks you're part of some kind of negative social signaling around the space you're in. Although I will say I kind of like it when crypto is more on the out like when it's more of like you're the fringe weirdo than when it's mainstream. I kind of like the winters a little bit more. But yeah, that period was that was the amount of entropy. You just kind of like to be in this space, you have to be able to handle volatility. You have to kind of be able to be zen. Brian always says like it's never as good as it seems, never as bad as it seems. You're going to experience high highs and low lows. But for me, my mindset in any of the kind of adverse situations I've hit is like I always just try to zoom out. It's like all about time horizon. Like what time horizon are you playing on? And when you take a long term view, things are never as good as it seems, and things are never as bad as it seems.
Well said. Well said. And I think that's just really good advice. I actually do like the winters too. Less noise out there. True builders can focus. Because sometimes what happens is, as a builder, you get kind of conflicted when it's like a bull run. Everyone's expecting massive pops in valuation. You have to like focus on that because your investor, well, not all investors, not the long-term horizon ones like you, but the DGen space. But in the short term, when the market's kind of down, you get to just focus on the product and build. And the people that are still stick with you are understanding of that. Willie, my last question to you: 1 year from now, in this current economic environment that we're in, where do you see crypto? I know you have a long-term horizon, but in this space, 5 to 10 years is might as well be 50. But 1 year, where do you think Coinbase is, and where do you think crypto is overall on a global scale?
It's really hard. I mean, so I won't make any price predictions because that's a fool's errand.
Never.
I think a year from now, we have cleared one or more meaningful pieces of crypto legislation in the United States, which have set some pretty durable and workable like rules of the road for entrepreneurs and builders in the space. I think 1 year from now, Bitcoin as a sovereign wealth or like central bank backed asset is tipped into something that's not just fringe, but just kind of like commonly thought about. And where Coinbase is a year from now, we've made meaningful progress on kind of the core business, expanding expanding all of our products and services around the world. But more importantly, we're going through this journey of shifting to becoming a fully on-chain kind of company, business, and entity. Base is a huge part of that, and I think that we will see meaningful amount of our business and activities continue to shift over into purely on-chain formats.
Amazing. Any last words, Hoolie, for the audience about Coinbase, Coinbase Ventures, or the Base Ecosystem Fund?
Just for anyone listening, thank you for listening. Thank you for being part of the Base community. I think there is a very special community that has kind of sprung up, it seems like overnight. I really appreciate like the ethos and values of all the Base builders we interact with. And stay tuned. We're for folks who are building on Base, we're actively working through and thinking through all different types of ideas and initiatives that we can continue supporting and investing behind Base builders.
Hoolie, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Thanks, Bill.
I had a blast. Everyone, if you're on Spotify, please head over to YouTube. On YouTube, we're going to make sure to have Coinbase Ventures, all their information. Farcaster, we'll have the Base Ecosystem Fund. We'll also put up Echo as well, so you can check it out. And of course, you have your boy Bill, Late Night on Base. You'll have your information on. If you haven't done so already, like and subscribe. Literally free, helps me produce more banger content on the daily. Until next time, everyone, this has been Late Night on Base with Hoolie from Coinbase Ventures. Take care, everyone.